All right, everybody. Syncratic. I'm back. I had a request to, I guess, explain all of this a little bit better, which I'm not going to promise I'm going to be good at doing, but I'm going to try. So, my workflow is complicated, and it's complicated for a reason. It's made to do a lot of things. It can mask control nets. It masks IP adapters. I mean, basically, if you want it to do something, it can probably do it. So, I guess I'll start from the beginning and work towards the end of it. So, all these guys right here are all on-off switches for every single group. So, everything that you see that's got its own little box, it's got a little marker here for whether it's on or off. So for instance, like enable video input. Well, video input's right here. If I disable it, it disables it. If I enable it, it enables it. This little arrow right here, if you click it, it'll take you to the video input. Or say prompt and keyframes. I click that, it takes me to prompt and keyframing. Or the FreeUV2 node. Click that, it'll take me to FreeUV2 node. A little bit off to the left, not entirely sure why. So, the little arrows right here are shortcuts to whatever you're looking for. So in this case, if I wanted to go to the node that makes masks out of cocoa things, I would go here, because this makes masks out of cocoa things. And down here would be the cocoa segmenter, which breaks images apart into like the person and the background and objects and things like that. So anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. So this is a basic control panel. It turns on and off everything. Right now, the only thing that's on is the control net stack, which is right here. That is what gathers all the information for all the control nets. So when you turn on one or two or however many you turn on, it doesn't try to enable all of the ones or all of them in sequence. So you could essentially turn on the tiling control net and it's not going to turn on the QR code monster control net or the line art control net or the depth control net or the canny edge control net. It's just going to turn on whatever you have that's not disabled. Right now that would be open pose and the depth control net, which is all I'm using to render this. Is it great? It's a little fuzzy. It could use some upscaling. Does it work? Yeah, it's fine. That is coming from this video right here. Usually when you are working with a subject, like if you're trying to make something that's Mad Hatter, that top hat and some of the design of the clothes is going to be really difficult to get an IP adapter to do anything with unless you have a subject that is somewhat close. So in this case, this is easy mode. You know, you got somebody who's already dressed as the Mad Hatter. That makes it fairly simple to animate it, right? Now, you could also just get somebody in a top hat with curly hair wearing, say, a tailcoat or something similar to that. That's, I don't know, dancing or whatever you want them to be doing. And it will render out, it'll understand, and it'll get you pretty close to where you want to be. Mad Hatter just happens to be a really difficult thing to recreate. So, anyway, So there's the video input. This is obviously where you get your video from. To the right of that, after you upload your video or whatever, you click the upload video, upload whatever you're trying to work on. That would be prompt and keyframing. So you want to put the most important things that you want in the pretext. Like, I want it to be HDR, 4K. It's not actually going to be 4K, but if you put 4K in there, it tries to make it good image quality and good hands, because I don't want it to give me weird hands that are terrible. It does that anyway, but there's a LoRa for that I can activate somewhere. So this would be the batch prompt scheduler, and in this case you can it's going to start at 0 frames, which means at the very beginning, before it even starts rendering stuff, or as soon as it starts rendering stuff, this is going to be what goes through the clip. And the clip is going to tell it, how to sculpt what you're working on. In this case, I put Mad Hatter dancing. It's just probably really unnecessary, because the IP adapters are amazing, because Mateo is amazing and codes some very amazing tools. Here's the negative. This is where you put all your negatives. I made it red so it's easy, but I got the Bad Dreams embedding because it's really good, and a few other stuff. NSFW nude. Don't want it to look like a sketch unless I actually want it to look like a sketch, in which case I take that out of there. So to the right of that, these red, green, blue, and yellow nodes, these are all specifically for masking. When you want to mask a specific thing that's coming out of, say, Coco, or coming out of the video matting node, which I tend to use Bria AI. I guess I don't know what else to say, or what else it would be called. Anyway, this is also another form of that, or another node that takes apart a video and breaks it down into pieces. So it'll be like the character, the background, the foreground, a plant, and you can mask out those individual things by color. And that's what all of these masks are for. They just they're used to pipe things through. So you would use this to visualize the mask and grab a hold of what you're trying to mask and get a mask for it. And then you would put, say, the red mask into this little node right here, which tells the attention mask what to look for and what to send all of this to. Right now, the attention mask is set to something really cool that I figured out, and that would be a mask from a depth map. Now, you would think it's kind of dumb, but it's not. It's very much like you end up with an alpha mask, essentially, but an alpha mask that kind of has some depth to it. And I find that it makes things a little bit cleaner. But anyway, you have these, attention masks for IP adapter in every one of these nodes. So this one is I'm using an inverted mask from Marigold, which gives me some really neat results, as you can see, because what it did was it took this background right here that's not the character and turned it inside out. So you get some really interesting results with it. You can make some really cool stuff. But that's for when we get farther to the right. So, IP adapters. This one, of course, is Face ID. And this is specifically for sticking faces to things. And it works really well. It works whether you leave it on linear or strong style transfer. I use it differently depending on what I'm doing. Sometimes it's better with strong style transfer. Sometimes it's better with linear. But it works great. So this node right here builds masks for Coco. These are all control nets. I mean, obviously, I'm pretty sure everybody who's watching this video is familiar with a control net. But these are all various control nets. These two guys right here are composite masks. So you can take one mask and multiply it over another mask to put it in front of something. So, say for instance, you have a background and you've got something in the foreground and you've got a character in between those two things. Well, you could fix that by multiplying the character mask over the top of the thing that's in front, and what it would do is it would pull it forward, so you don't have to worry about that. Anyway, but they can be used for all kinds of things. Composite masks right now, what I've got them set to do is when this node, the shape mask node, but let me explain what the shape mask node does. This was a whole lot of math to get it to do what I wanted it to do. As you can see, there's like a whole lot of little collapsed nodes in here that do all kinds of stuff. Anyway, what this does is it creates a mask that is a square that separates left and right. So it will, if you have say a video with like 2 or 3 dancers in it, right? But you want to separate them out. What you would do is you would take that left and right mask and you would separate the left and right dancers. And then ideally you would say rotoscope out the third one. And if you don't know what I mean by rotoscoping, I'll make a video on that here soon. But it's basically just cutting out a character. It's pretty simple. Or a bird or a picture or whatever. So you would rotoscope out the third character somehow. There's a whole bunch of different ways to do it. My go-to was, and still currently is, because I haven't figured out another way to make 3 dancers fit together properly. I will use this, which cuts the image in half, makes a mask for either side, and then reverses the mask so that you can use one for one side and one for the other. That drops down into these 2 composite masks. Then you use the composite masks, you send the composite masks to, so you can, okay, I gotta slow down. You send them to the attention mask. And if you type in composite, you'll get composite mask 1, composite mask 2. You can also use composite images if you want to use them for something to, because this workflow does a lot of things. But you would use the composite mask 1 and composite mask 2 in, the first IP adapter and the second IP adapter, and then put your person or personage or whatever it is that you're trying to mask in those 2, and it would mask out the 2 dancers on the left and the right to whatever you wanted them to be. The third one, you would have to manually rotoscope or activate one of these nodes right here and use for the color to mask, you would want to put in the actual the depth data for the foremost character, like the person that's the closest. But if you give them a depth map, or if you give it a depth map value, it'll create a mask based on the depth map, and you can mask out the third character that way. And then you can have 3 very different characters, say, Marvel characters or whatever, all doing a dance, and so long as they don't switch places or sides on the screen, then they will stay adhered to whatever the IP adapters are telling them to be. Anyway, there's 2 extra IP adapters just in case you want to work with more or do more. But that's what the composite masks do. That is a control net image dump, and all it does is dump 3 images from whatever you want to look at. If you want to drop open pose images, you just click right here and type in image, and it'll dump whatever you want. It'll show you previews of the composite images. It'll show you previews of DW pose, of anything. It'll even show you previews of what the sampler is putting out, or the soft edge, or depth, canny, all of the control nets. I'm pretty sure they all are set up for that. If they're not, I'll fix it and release it later. Okay. So that was a lot. Let's continue. This is for UV2. It is set up right now specifically for SD 1.5 models, not SDXL. Works great, sharpens everything up a little bit. Don't mess with it. Just let everything run through it, let it do its thing. Right now, it is getting its information for what it wants to do, or what it's going to do. It's getting its model information from the Face ID node. You can tell because if you look at it, the get node is getting from model IPA Face ID. So it's getting its model from IPA Face ID. So whatever runs into this, in this case, this is getting its model from model IPA2. This is IPA2. So this is getting its model from model IPA. This is the IPA model where it's getting its model from. And this is getting its model from model merge, which is right here. This is the model and LoRa merge. So basically, I know it's kind of convoluted, but the model is coming from here, obviously, where you load all your models. And this will allow you to merge various models, which I like doing because you get some really cool results. And you just want to make sure that your clip and model ratio are equal. So if you have multiple models, they need to be like 50-50 or 67-33 or whatever. But as long as they equal out to 1 for the model ratio and the clip ratio, you'll be fine. And it'll run good. This is for LoRa's. So that obviously has the animate diff LoRa that I leave running at about 0.18 for LCM because it just makes things a little bit smoother. So that's where model, clip, LoRa, all that. This, of course, is the seed, and you can make a random one or make it random each time or make a new fixed random. Depending on what you want to do, I leave it at a new fixed random because RNG trees recursive execution is fantastic and it saves a lot of time. But even if you generate a new seed, that has some effect, but most of the time not a whole lot. Okay, so the pipelines, the way this all works before I get to sampling. Model. This is where all your models come from. Your models go to wherever you send them to. So this is getting its model from the model merge node, and then sending out the model to IPA2, which is then, this is now grabbing the model from IPA2, and then this grabs the model from IPA1, which is right here. And all of that comes back over to FreeU, which grabs its model from Face ID. Then FreeU, then this gets its model from FreeU, which is where the model, that's the model pipeline if it had a whole bunch of strings to it. And I know it's kind of convoluted, but once you get used to it, it's simple. So this is just a VAE encode, which is your standard thing for video. You have to VAE encode video to get anything as an output. And in your which ends up being a latent video. There is also, so if you click this to get your latent, type in latent, there is a latent empty, a latent video, or a latent empty video, and a latent video. So the empty latent, it's just making a blank canvas. It's not pulling anything from the video. It's just making a blank canvas to stick whatever you're making onto. So it's just basically making a whole bunch of noise and not generating anything. So as for the latent, this is set for latent video right now because I want to pull some information from this to make it a little bit cleaner. But that also brings me to the next thing. All of these control nets are set to be able to mask things out. And what I mean by mask things out is that this control net right now is set to pull from video upscaled. So it will pull its video from all of this. It's going to get the trees, the grass, the shrubs, all of it. Which is cool if you want to get all of it. But if you don't, and you're like me and you like experimenting with things, then I have masked it out. So you can get, there's a, oh crap. Crap, what have I done? Okay, yeah. You can get the image composite from Coco. And I'll show you what all that means here in a second. But basically it masks the control net so that the control net is only looking at the character that's cut out from the background, which can be really useful if you want to like make a really weird, elaborate background out of like smoke and bubbles or something and have somebody dance in front of it. It's nice to be able to cut the character out and leave the background to whatever you want to imagine it to be. This, of course, is Animate LCM. It animates things with LCM. I suggest using LCM models because it makes things better. Personally, I use LCM average of square root and linear. Honestly, there's not really a huge difference between all of the LCM modules, at least that I've noticed. As long as you're using an LCM module, it should be fine. I usually use either this one or the LCM is greater than square root linear. Two greater thans, I think, is like feeding square root linear into LCM. If I recall correctly, it's like put square root linear in LCM. From a programming standpoint, at least if you're programming with like C++. It's been a long time. So that's the workflow. This is the output. Gonna go down to the batch prompt. So here's your VAE. This is your batch size or how many frames you want to render, and height and width. I would just leave the height and width as they are, or lower them if you want to render more frames and you're on lower hardware or like less than 12 gigs. But for now, we're just going to render 60 frames. And that will show you some of the mechanics between this. Some of the mechanics in this setup, because it's kind of neat. So if I hit run prompt, it's going to load video. It's going to scale the image. It's going to cast sharpen it because I have contrast adaptive sharpening built into this node. It just makes things a little bit cleaner, especially when you have low res video. So it might stall out on you for a second sometimes. Just don't worry too much about that. So it's going to run through Coco, which, like I said, segments things. And then it'll give you an idea. Well, it's about to give you an idea of what Coco does. It'll show here in a second. Oh man, I've managed to explain this in almost less than 30 minutes. That's surprising. Okay. So this is what Coco does. This is background. Background is a very solid green color and will continue to be a solid green color. There's the character. Not sure why it made that and this white, but I guarantee you they are different shades of white. That's some form of gray. That's a lighter green. That's orange. That's red, but a very different red. Coco masks out characters in 220-220-60, if I'm not mistaken. 220-2060. Which brings me to the next node. The node that masks out everything. So this is Coco. Coco gets, well, it turns things into masks from Coco. So it grabs the upscaled video, it grabs the image from Coco, it creates a mask, and what it's grabbing, when it's creating a mask from the color and multiplying that mask onto a blank background, which gives you Mad Hatter all by himself, which is a makeshift alpha mask. And that's cool because I've set it to make alpha masks too. So I took that, set it to make a binary mask out of that, which turns everything white or black, and then inverted the binary mask so that you can mask either one. You can either mask the character or you can mask the background. It's going to mask whatever, it's going to draw to whatever is white and ignore whatever is black. So I actually should enable the composite masks and show you guys what those do. But anyway, as you can see, this is pulling stuff that it shouldn't be. Hold on a second. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Like magic. Magic of video editing. Anyway. So it did render it out, but that's not what it was supposed to do. That's not where it was supposed to be getting its image from, because I was trying to show you guys something. So I need to type in subject. So video subject only should be where it was getting its video from, and that will pull only the subject. So let's cue the prompt again. It's going to run back through this, which I will explain here in just 1 second. Actually, I might as well explain it now while it's running. This is Marigold Depth. I use Marigold Depth because it is awesome. And this is the LCM variant of Marigold Depth, which I have no words for. I don't know. I think Kaijai coded this, and it's awesome. It works really, really well. Let's see if I click this. So this node is experimental version that includes optical flow for video consistency between frames. Yeah, it's experimental, but it works really, really, really well. And as you can see, now it's pulling information from just the subject. So now the subject is masked, meaning it's going to only pull depth information from the subject, which probably means this is going to look wildly different in the background now. But there's only one way to find out. That's to let it run. Now, from what I understand, a lot of people like watching bars move. So there's my Comfy. There's my bar. It's 10.89 seconds per iteration, but I wouldn't expect that unless you have a 4090. And if you want to know how much it's running right now, it is using 19.6 gigabytes of RAM. Now, could it use less? Yeah. You could cut down the resolution to like 512 by 512, and you could run this on a 3080, no problem. You can cut down the resolution a little further and run all kinds of stuff on a 3080. I know because I had one for a long time, and I now have a 4090. Anyway, well, that's rendering. So I use Marigold Depth. Marigold Depth also has a bunch of things built into it, as you can see. And I guess this is going to be like a really neat toy for the people who are actually, watching this video and paying attention. Because this is a mask from Marigold that is sticking to this character. So basically, Marigold is grabbing this and hitting it with depth, and then that depth map is becoming an alpha mask. And I could invert the depth map, which this is actually doing. Okay. And that cuts out the character. So what should be left is a really cool looking environment with not a whole lot of influence from the original video. But if you want to get rid of all the influence from the original video, you would just take this latent, if I could type, and make it empty. So that's done. As you can see, it's kind of, background's a little different. It's got a big mushroom that just kind of pops into existence a little bit. That's probably partially because of this right here. It is set to center. Set that to pad, which will definitely change the way the image looks, especially with an empty latent. So this is going to look a whole lot different this time. Click render. The render method here is TAESD, TASD, I guess, TAESD, whatever you want to call it. And it will show progressively what this is going to look like as it renders. And it should be pretty cool, because there shouldn't be anything, being that the like this, video subject only. So there should be nothing now that's pulling any background information at all. All of the control nets are focused specifically on the Hatter. Everything behind the Hatter is going to be whatever it is. Well, not exactly whatever it is. It's going to be something like this. How much like that it is, I don't know. We'll let this one render out so you guys can see the difference. This one had some subject data. By the way, if you don't know what I just did, hold Alt, click on a node, drag it, it will copy it. Looks like it might be about the same. It looks like that masking was enough without masking the latent. It's going to be interesting to see if there's a whole lot of difference. Looks like the character might pop out a little bit more. Don't know. Pants are different, that's for sure. At least right now. Trying to think of what else I can show you guys. Oh, yeah. The shape masks. Okay, where's the shape mask? Turn on the shape mask. Also going to need composite 1 and 2. Alright. And how much longer? 10 seconds. 46 seconds. Oh, man. Alright. Well, in the meantime, actually need to look up a whole lot of things because this lady right here is phenomenal. And this should illustrate. So, grab this. Download the short. This is shortsdown.com. Generally, get the better resolution. It's better to scale down than it is to scale up. Alright, so that's done. This finish? Come on. Yeah, it did. Well, the pants are a little different. I'll just compare them side by side. Yeah, there's not too much difference. It's kind of... the hat's a little all over the place. It's refining. But either way. So let's grab that video. It's a pretty cool looking video. Just gonna need...
Let's get it. Hop off.
First 4 seconds. Let me look real quick. See... pull up the properties of that video. It is 30 FPS. Good. All right, time to do basic math. 3 times 4 is 12. So 60 would be half of that. That's fine. What we're going to do now, let's see. Depth is now going to pull all of them, which is fine. That's not a problem. But we need to get these composite masks going. So I'm going to need IPA 3 and 4 active. And going to need composite mask 1. Composite mask 2, because those feed into the attention mask nodes. Okay, so let's find somebody to make the Alice. Good enough. That Alice, you can be the female Silver Surfer. Why not? Doesn't really matter. It's not important. Got background, foreground. For this, going to have to turn off Face ID, because Face ID will try to stick that face to everything. So this is getting from IPA 3, which is getting from IPA 2, which is getting from... IPA 1, which should be getting from model IPA. So there we go. Now I need this over here. I need free U getting from, dang it. It's my own screw up. Model IPA 4. So I want this to be linear. It comes from here to here to here to here to here, back up to here. So from here to here, so that it can load the IPA model in clip vision, through the IP adapters, back up to free U, then from free U to animate LCM. Okay. So now we got characters, we got the masks set. So that's going to be the background. This is not going to work because it's going to try to mask all the characters as the Mad Hatter. Which is where you come into the 3-body problem, which apparently seems to be the topic right now. 3 bodies dancing is chaotic and difficult to mask properly. So we're going to have to use a little bit of hackery here. We're going to cue the prompt and let it run. You're going to see the shape mask make shape masks, and then it's going to composite them after it runs through Coco. So Coco is going to, of course, segment everything. Oh no. What? What is your problem? What? Why are you not plugged in? Okay, well, it's a good thing I noticed that. I haven't had those ones on in a long time. Alright. So as you can see, the composite mask chops off left and right. This is probably going to be weird looking, but it's not running. Why? Oh, because of the IPA. There we go. That should fix it. Now it can pull everything from embeds, and it can hit animate diff. Load up the model. Another thing I hadn't explained yet is the positive and negative over here. They're getting from the advanced control net stack, which is getting from prompt plus travel and prompt minus, which is getting from the positive and negative prompt conditioning. So that is the conditioning pipeline. I already talked about the model pipeline. That's the conditioning pipeline. The conditioning pipeline is far more simple. So let's see what it does. And also how much VRAM it's using. It's using 21 gigs right now. And it is going to have a hard time processing this, because it wants everything to be the Mad Hatter, but at the same time, it also wants Alice on one side and the Silver Surfer on the other. And a background of strangeness. So this is probably going to look real weird. We're going to go with this is going to be really, really weird. But it also might be really cool, because it's switching the style of... It's got 2 styles fighting on either side. And the Mad Hatter trying to come up over the top of all of it. Wow. That's actually a lot better than I thought it would be. That dude is goo. It was a dude. Now it is metal goo. Really curious how this ends up turning out. Let's see what it's running at. 10.75. It looks cool. It looks really cool. I mean, whether it turns into anything other than mush, I don't know, but it's cool. We're going to fix the 3-body problem here in just a second. We're going to fix that center mask. We're going to do that. I can actually do that while it's running. So, remember how earlier I talked about these 4 masks and what they're for? We're going to activate one of them. Activate the red mask. What we're going to do... We're going to zoom in here. We're going to take the depth map. We're going to use a color picker. We're going to look at the range. So this is this white value is 213, 213, 213, 212. And as we go down to the darker part, so this is in between 148 and 213. It's a big range. Yeah, it's in between 148 and 213. So what we're going to have to do is make that a thing. So take this. White value is going to be 213, 213, 213. It goes all the way down to 148. So that's 52 and 13 is 55. So the threshold has to be 55. Otherwise, it's not going to pick up everything. Now, where we want it to get its image from is Marigold. Image depth Marigold. Yes, so we want it to get its image from Marigold. Again, pipelines. So this is getting its image from Marigold, and the color to mask is using depth to mask out the lady in the front. So then what we do, since we want her to be the Mad Hatter, is we change the mask to red. Mask red, which corresponds to the mask red node, which we just built out. So that's a little weird. It's a little weird. Let's see if we can clean it up just a little bit. This should showcase pretty much my entire workflow. But yeah, this should show the mask of her. It's not all that great. But maybe, just maybe, it's enough. I'm gonna tweak the value a little bit. I'm gonna stop this. Add a little bit more to the threshold. Cue it again. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe this is more of a pain than I thought it was. But again, it's the three-body problem. The problem of masking out three dancers, which I'm still working on solving. This should be better, though. It also gives you an idea of what these are for. These nodes are for creating masks out of things like depth maps and creating masks from Cocoa. Like, you could take this gray color from Cocoa and you could drop it into the color to mask node and then tell it to grab its image from Cocoa, and it would build you a video mask of nothing but the gray. And then you could plop that into any of these, and that's what it'll mask. Like, will this work any better now? I don't know. Seems to not have too much of a problem with Alice, and not too much of a problem with Silver Surfer Lady, but Mad Hatter's looking, Mad Hatter's looking rough. Yeah. So it's supposed to come over the top. I'd have to rotoscope out her and give her her own rotoscoped mask. Or rotoscope her out and then rotoscope the other two out and then give them all separate roto masks that are built for them. So, is it solvable? Yes. It's definitely solvable. Is it solvable in Comfy as of right now? I haven't been able to figure it out. I've come close to figuring it out. I've made some really cool stuff, but I think that this is more of a thing that you're going to need After Effects for. or if not After Effects, DaVinci Resolve Studio, or something that is capable of doing composite. I think Houdini can do compositing. But yeah, that mask doesn't seem to be helping a whole lot. Oh no. See what it's running at. 19.4. 21 seconds till it finishes, and it's probably still going to be kind of horrifying. I mean, neat that it's merging these two styles. It could turn off the mask and have that set to just not try to make the Mad Hatter in front. Because it's combining. It's definitely combining the styles. Can it be rotoed out? Yes. Do I have DaVinci Resolve Studio? I'll have it tomorrow. Yeah. So in the interest of strangeness, it's really doing good. It's just trying to Mad Hatter everything. Might be because I have some conditioning in there that needs to not be in there. Oh, one more thing before I call this video an end, because this problem is something I've been trying to solve for a long time. If anybody figures it out without using external tools like DaVinci Resolve or After Effects, please message me, because this has been frustrating me for like over a month. And also, when you install Miracle Depth, follow the instructions very carefully. Like, exactly. Or it's not going to work right. Also, if you want something really cool to run Comfy with, run it in Pinocchio. There's tutorials for that. I might make a tutorial for installing it in Pinocchio, but it's fantastic. It just runs better. It's probably because I was missing some library or something that I didn't know that I needed. And when I installed it in Pinocchio, it ran better. But that's it for this one. I hope this explains this workflow. I'm going to upload all this. I hope you guys enjoy it. Have a good one.